Thank you everybody for coming, despite the Spain-Netherlands match in an hour. So that's really brave of you to come here. And I don't know how many of you were there for the last year's talk by Radhanath Swami here at Google. Okay, just one. Okay, so it's I don't know if you heard about this book. It's called The Journey Home. He's the author of that book, and so we have invited him as part of the authors at Google series to give us some wonderful insights he has from his life journey. Actually, this book, even though it's called autobiography, it covers only almost like 2 years of his life when he was a teenager. But those 2 years are worth going through in depth, so you can see what goes on in the mind of a spiritual aspirant who was a teenager and just steadfastly had this one goal in mind, to know the meaning of life, and then with so much passion and integrity to himself, how he found that goal, and then the rest of his life is a dedication to that goal. So that's what brings him here today for this topic of on integrity, or influence without affluence, the power of integrity and authenticity. So basically, the reason I chose the topic is because that's the essence of his personality. I've known him for like 17 years and heard his lectures and talks, and he's a very humble person. And the last thing I could expect is that he would write a book about himself. Why would a monk who's so humble write about himself, right? Like normally people write books to as an ego trip, or just to show off. But then the reason he wrote this book is to show how one could be successful if one pursues one's own calling of the heart, despite all obstacles, and remain committed to that goal. So that's the real essence of his being. And the book here, Journey Home, there's a bunch of copies available at a subsidized rate, so you can pick up one when you go. And then we also have this program called Atma. There's some flyers out there. So there's a course on the Bhagavad Gita. Some of us are doing here, as we are doing these talks as part of these courses. So if you're interested, you can pick up one of the flyer or go to go/Atma. And so with that, we'll give a warm welcome to Radhanath Swami for Google.
Timidan Jnananjanachalakaya chakshurun militam jena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pristaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namine. Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Astyatadeshatarine Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaur Bhakta Brinda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. It's my great honor and joy to be with all of you today at this most important place that affects the whole world at every moment, the headquarters of Google. With power comes a tremendous amount of responsibility. The power of wealth, the power of knowledge, the power of fame, the power of having skills. When these, from a spiritual perspective, when these blessings are entrusted to us, we have a great responsibility just beyond our own little circle or reference of reality. Because at every moment, our thoughts, our words, and our actions are influencing the world, the universe, and the creation. If anyone knows these subjects from a scientific, technological perspective, it's all of you here at Google. There's a saying that you can tell how rich you are by counting how many things you have that money cannot buy. Recently, I was at the House of Lords in London, in the British Parliament, and I spoke that one little sentence, and everyone applauded. Because everyone there had so much. And the more you have, the more you realize how these things cannot buy us happiness. It is said in a human evolved society of consciousness, people love people and use things. But in the world we live, all too often, people love things and use people to get them or to keep them. There can be no inner fulfillment in such a life. The Bhagavad Gita tells that real intelligence is when we find satisfaction within ourselves. And then, instead of desperately, passionately trying to get stuff to give us satisfaction, we use all these things in this world to share the satisfaction we have. That's a fulfilling life. When we have that inner peace, that inner love, that inner connection to grace, then it's a foundation that we can build our whole life upon. If we build a house, let us take this wonderful building in the Google headquarters, for example. It's a wonderful building. It has beautiful architecture and very nice modern design and a lot of technologies in it. But very few people will come and say, this building has a fantastic foundation. Foundation is not what is seen externally. But the reality is the foundation holds up everything. Without the foundation, the whole building will crumble in a time of crisis or storm. So to have actual happiness in this world is not on the basis of what's happening around us, because things are always changing. It's the nature of the world. Happiness, distress, honor, dishonor, pleasure, pain, health, disease, success, failure, victory, defeat. Like two sides of a coin, these dualities are inseparable. And if our happiness is dependent on getting the side of the coin that we prefer, then it's very tottering. But if we can find happiness beyond that, I sometimes tell a story. It's in this book. I was sitting on the bank of the Ganges River one day. It was summer. Month of May in India, it was probably 120 degrees with not a single cloud in the sky. And no one, even though this was a very holy place, the place where the Ganges and the Jamuna and the Saraswati, 3 rivers meet, because of the heat, no one was there except me. If you go there during Kumbh Mela, which I did last year, on one day, there was 25 million people in that spot, all trying to bathe at the same time, in the same place. So there's a price to pay, the heat, but I had it all for myself. And as I was sitting there, I saw a hawk hovering down in the sky. He had long, extended wings, brown, golden, white. And I saw his yellow eyes intensely gazing down into the river. He was circling lower, 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 until he was just a few feet above my head. And I saw his pointed beak and very sharp claws. And he looked hungry. And I looked like the only piece of meat around, actually. So I was quite awake in my meditation. Suddenly, he dove right into the water, head first, and went underwater. And the water was, there was something going on under there, splashing and splashing and splashing. Then the hawk emerged from under the water, and in his claws was a fish, about 1 foot long. It was only a few feet away from me. I could look right into that little fish's eyes. He was flapping desperately. Maybe it was a she. I don't know. But that fish eyes looked totally shocked, disoriented, and desperate. And as the hawk was taking him higher and higher into the air, I was thinking, that fish was probably just having a regular old day like the rest of us. He's just swimming around with his friends and with his relatives and looking for some food and finding food and playing and swimming upstream and downstream and across stream, and just like any other day, enjoying, the beautiful underwater vegetation of the Ganges. And suddenly, the hawk of fate ripped that little fish out of its complacency. And now he was helpless and about to die. I was just about 19 years old when I saw this. And it was a time in my life when I was really searching for meaning and purpose. And every little thing I was seeing, I was looking for messages. And in the Bible it says, seek and you shall find. Knock and the door will open. If we're looking for wisdom, it's actually revealing itself to us everywhere and in everything. So this was a life-changing experience for me. Although we probably see things like this every day. I was thinking that hawk of fate can shake any one of us out of our comfort zone at any moment. That's just the nature of life in this world. But if that fish was swimming deeper, the hawk could not reach it. And similarly, if we find our happiness in a deep place within ourselves, in the values, the integrity, and the compassion that we live by, nothing could shake that happiness, because it's beyond all the dualities and changes of the world. The world is said to be a mirror of our own state of consciousness. No two people see the same thing the same way. People like to be objective, but I'm about 64 years old, and in my experience, no one could really be objective. To a certain extent we can, but we're all seeing through different lenses of our consciousness. When the sun rises, even in our own life, every day we're seeing a different kind of sunrise. It's the same sun planet, but depending on our mood. One day we wake up and we see the sunrise and we think, God, of another day I have to struggle with this problem and that problem. I wish I could just go to sleep or just take some intoxication and forget who I am. Yes? And another day we see the sun and we think, oh, I have so many opportunities. I'm going to do this today. I'm going to do that today. And another day we see the sun and we think, oh, how beautiful nature is. So everyone is seeing in different ways at every moment, what to speak of different people with different experiences. Just like I was coming into the Google headquarters and I saw these beautiful flowers. And at the beginning I was thinking, oh, how nice these flowers. And I was thinking, you know, I'd like to take this flower and offer it to my beloved Lord. And then I started getting some kind of an experience of hay fever. And I was seeing the flower in a very different way. I was thinking, I want to get away from that flower. I wish this flower didn't exist. He's going to make me sneeze, and then I'm going to be sneezing during the lecture and everything like that. So things are so relative, and we are so subjective. And in a certain way, we should try to be objective, but we are subjective. We're all seeing the world according to the lens of our values, of our particular attitude, of what we're striving to achieve in life, and of all of our past experiences in life. You know, for some people, when they see a drug addict, it's despicable. For another person, when they see a drug addict, they have such deep, deep compassion. They'll do anything for that person to help them out because they've been through it themselves. So what is the reality? The reality is a truth, but how we respond to it becomes our inner reality. And in this sense, the Vedas, and particularly the Bhagavad Gita, explain how we can subjectively transform our objective experiences in this world by understanding some basic principles of how the world works. There it is explained there are three gunas, or three modes of nature. And these modes, they're like colors. And different combinations of colors create so many other colors. But they're basic principles of material creation that influence literally everything within the creation. Like that. Thank you, thank you. Let's take it, please. Sometimes that helps keep people alert. I didn't mean to do it, but still it had that effect. There's the modes of goodness, passion, and ignorance. And the Bhagavad Gita explains how they affect us and how actually we come under the influence of these modes according to the choices that we make in our lives. When we make those choices, then we acquire those qualities. And then we become more inclined to make those same choices again and again and again and again. But still, we have free will to come to a higher aspiration and attitude in life. Let us take an example of the Gita of charity. Bhagavad Gita says, charity in the mode of goodness is giving the right people the right thing at the right time in the right place so everyone benefits. Charity in the mode of passion is to give something to someone so that I get tax breaks and I get fame and popularity by giving to somebody else. Charity in the mode of ignorance is giving the wrong thing to the wrong person at the wrong time in the wrong place in such a way that it's actually harmful. Our disposition in life. Let us take, for example, our occupation. How the choices we make affect our relationships with other people and with the environment around us, which is a very, very important concern in the world today. The mode of goodness in our work, the way we perform our work, the way we interact with people in our work, and the way we utilize what we gain from our work. In the mode of goodness, we're looking at a broad picture. We're not just seeing the immediate thing. We all have to focus on something immediate, accomplishing something, a project, or whatever it may be. But to see it in the broader perspective. How am I going to do it in a way that it's actually going to bring out real inner fulfillment to me, real happiness to others, and real prosperity for my cause? That's the mode of goodness, to really look at the broader picture. The Vedas explain there is prayas and shreyas. These are two types of activities and consciousness. Shreyas is that what we do, what we speak, we are thinking of how it is going to affect the overall present and future and everyone involved. And prayas is how it affects me now. Just like most children, they really don't like to go to school. Some children do, but I didn't. I just wanted to play. You know, we had our little, in those days in the 1950s in Illinois where I grew up, we all played in empty lots. And we played baseball and soccer and football and all these games in empty lots, and we could just play forever. And then my mother says it's time for school. And what a waste of time. Now, I didn't have the intelligence, but my mother had the intelligence. Because if you can play all day and be happy now, but in the future your life is going to be in destitute and misery because you're not planning. So going to school is shreyas. Playing all day is prayas. But this actually applies at every stage of our life in whatever we do. You know, the decisions we're making, what we're doing, and how we're doing it very much is going to affect the future quality of my life and those people around us and the environment around us. So the mode of goodness, or sattva guna, is to have knowledge and to apply that knowledge to take serious responsibility for the spiritual, social, individual, and collective welfare of everyone. That is the mode of goodness. The mode of passion is more the drive to accomplish something, centered primarily around the principles of I, me, and mine, and not really considering who I am, what values are there, or how it's going to affect the environment or other people. And the mode of ignorance is when the mode of passion deteriorates to the point where our actions and our choices are insensitive to the pain of others, where we can justify cruelty. We can justify tearing other people down to bring myself up. We can just justify destroying the ecology, the environment for generations in the future, just so that I can accomplish something for me now. That's the mode of ignorance. Wisdom is to balance, because all of us, we have to act with passion. We have to strive to accomplish something. Whether we're engineers or scientists or educators, or we're in business or investment or politics, whether we're farmers, or even if we're little swamis like me, we want to accomplish something. We need a drive to accomplish it. Wisdom is to balance this passion with goodness, with the vision of a larger picture, with the vision of the social, spiritual responsibilities that we have in everything we do. If we do not balance passion with goodness, then by nature's own course, it will be affected by ignorance. Just like when a river is flowing, if you don't swim upstream, you're going to go downstream. You can't stay where you are. Yes? Do you ever be in a river? You can't just, okay, I'm just going to rest and be here. If you rest, you're either going up or down. So similarly, passion either has to be balanced with goodness, or it's going to be degraded by ignorance. And as human beings, this is the responsibilities we have. And inner fulfillment actually comes by making choices based on these higher principles, these higher values. I was recently at a marriage, and they asked me to speak. It was in Southern California, and the people getting married were lawyers. So there were all these lawyers and judges and everyone at the marriage. And so I was saying a little prayer, what should I say? And sometimes simple things come. And I said all kinds of things, but the one thing they liked the best was just a personal example. My nephew is here. His name is William. His grandmother and grandfather, who happened to be my mother and father. When I was about 8 years old, I was just sitting on my mother's bed in her bedroom, and she was looking in the mirror and putting mascara on her eyes. Because this is in the 1950s. And maybe I'm kind of out of touch with these things these days, but I guess people still put mascaras on their eyes. So she was doing that. And I was just watching. And for me, this was like the best television show, just watching my mother do this. Something simple because of affection. And then she turned to me and said something I'll never forget. She said, everyone loves your father and everyone loves me, but we don't love each other anymore. And we have decided to separate. An 8-year-old boy hearing that, I don't know how other people think, but it created such a trauma in my mind. It was unimaginable. It was inconceivable. I felt so insecure, so unstable. It was as if the whole world had just fallen away from me and I was just kind of dropping into nowhere. I couldn't say a word. All I could do was cry. And she looked at me, and she couldn't see a word. She started to cry, and then I ran away. And she didn't know where I went. I ran down the stairs, out the door, down the block, and I just kept running. That evening when my father came back from work, and he was struggling, because at that time he was, did you ever hear of the Edsel? He owned a dealership of Edsels. So he was having many challenges on many levels. So he came home and came into the bedroom, and my mother and father closed the door, and I knew what they were going to talk about. So I secretly put my ear to the door. Nobody knows this. And I heard my mother tell my father what happened to me. There was total silence for about a minute. And then I heard them say, we're going to work this out. We're going to stay together. We're going to work this out. We have a higher purpose to achieve than just our relationship with each other. And they did. And it wasn't easy for them. But as the years went by, I hardly saw anywhere in the world such a loving, respectful, and united relationship between two human beings as they had. When my mother passed away, they were married 58 years. And when I think of that incident, I think the love and the fulfillment that they achieved, it wasn't because they were thinking I, me, and mine. They developed a relationship based on a higher principle that was beyond either of them. And because they took responsibility for that higher principle, a deeper fulfillment, a deeper love than anyone could imagine was given to them. A couple years ago, I was with my very dear, my best friend, Vaisheshika Prabhu, who's sitting here today. He's the leader of the Vaishnav community in this part of California. And every year we take a walk through the Muir Woods. Whatever our schedules are, we make this a priority. Just the two of us to walk through this Redwood Forest and just reflect about life and reflect about the year that has passed and reflect about our future and really reevaluate things. Have any of you been to Muir Woods? Please raise your hands. When we see those gigantic redwood trees, it's such a natural environment that it does something to us. It induces certain reflection into higher realities beyond ourselves. One of the reasons is these trees are so big and we're so small. And these trees, some of them are 1,000 or 2,000 years old. And, we'll be lucky to live 80 or 90 years. So when we really compare ourselves to the trees, these trees are quite substantial. A few years before that, I brought a group of teenagers to Kings Canyon, where the biggest sequoia trees and redwood trees in the world are. And we went to the largest tree on planet Earth. It's called General Sherman. It's about 2,200 years old. And it's gigantic. If you hollowed it out and put water in it, I think you could have enough water for a family of 4 to take a bath for 12 years. It's a big tree. And we're just like little ants next to that tree. And I asked the teenagers, if General Sherman, who has lived for 2,000 years, could give a message to humanity, what would he say? And some of the boys, you know how boys are, they were saying all these kind of ridiculous, humorous things. But there was one girl. Her name was, I think, Lakshmi. American girl. She started to speak. And with her first words, she began to cry. And then she talked. The way she spoke, you've heard about this concept of channeling? Well, it seemed like that tree was channeling through her because she was speaking with such conviction and such depth. She was only about 15 years old. She had the voice of the tree. She said, "Why are you humans so foolish?" You know, I've been here before any of you white people ever came to this continent. I've been here at the time of Jesus, the time of the rise and fall of the Roman Empire. I've been here through the Renaissance, through World War I, World War II, the Civil War, the Vietnam War, the Korean War. I've seen what you've done to the skies and to the oceans and to the earth. Why are you always fighting? Why are you always exploiting nature? Why are you always exploiting each other? Why so much greed? She said, "Don't you see? You're only here for a couple years. Your life is so short. Why can't you learn to cooperate on a higher principle?" She was crying, thinking of what the tree was seeing humanity doing. So when I was walking with Vaisheshikaji Prabhu in the Muir Woods, I was reflecting on all these things. And then we came across a group of tourists who were in a circle around the park ranger. And as we were walking by, the park ranger said, "I am going to tell you the underground secret of the Redwood Forest." Now, having been a teenager in the 1960s in America, I still have a spontaneous attraction to underground things, especially secrets. He said, "Now please listen carefully, because it changed my life in a special way, hearing this park ranger. You know, usually I expect to change my life by listening to some scholar of the Vedas or some preacher of the Bible or some great yogi. But my life changed listening to a park ranger." He said that in the Muir Woods, the soil is very loose, doesn't have much stability, and it's hilly, which makes the stability even less. For a tree to grow high and survive, it requires deep roots. The redwoods, the roots do not grow deep. They don't grow deep at all. So how are these trees surviving? 1,000, 2,000 years through numerous massive earthquakes here, through frigid blizzards in the winter, through incredible windstorms. And they just keep growing higher and higher and higher. Higher than any other living being in the entire planet. How do they survive? And then he stopped speaking and led us all to imagine. It seemed like such a contradiction. Then he explained how the roots of the redwood trees, they may not grow down deep, but underground they grow outward. And each root is searching for the root of another redwood tree. And as soon as they come together, they embrace. They entwine around each other and form a permanent lock. All the roots of the trees are looking for other trees to make that relationship with. And in this way, the little baby trees that are so vulnerable, the big, giant, ancient trees provide their roots for the baby trees to wrap their roots around to give them their full support. And even the giant trees, they're so vulnerable because they're so high. But all the other trees in the forest, directly or indirectly, are interconnected, and they're all giving support to each other. From a human perspective, the roots of our existence is very much in our affection, in our love, in our concern, in our care. And when we reach out to actually see this larger picture of how it's not about I, me, or mine, it's about us. The Bhagavad Gita defines wisdom. Vidyavanaya sambhane brahmani kavihastini suni chaiva swapakecha pandita samadarshana. That true wisdom is to see every living being with equal vision. Because beyond these three modes of nature, the Gita explains, there is the divine state of consciousness, of understanding beyond this ever-changing world and beyond this ever-changing mind. There is the witness that is within us, the true self, that in Sanskrit is called the Atma. Some call it the soul, or the spirit, or the living force, or the source of consciousness. That conscious force is seeing through our eyes and hearing through our ears and experiencing life through our brains and through our hearts and through our bodies. When we're tiny little babies, we have certain desires, we have a certain type of little body. And now most of us we have very different bodies, and our minds are thinking very different. We're not thinking about our mother's milk anymore like we used to. So everything's changing, but still we're the same person who's witnessing life through all these transformations. Who am I? A driver in a car takes good care of the car, but understands that he or she needs something more than gasoline for himself. Gives the gasoline to the car, but I need something else. What are the needs of the soul? The true self. To love and to be loved. That's the basic fundamental need for everyone. And love is beyond selfishness. To love is to care. To feel love is to feel cared for. And the origin of that love, according to the Gita, is the soul's relationship with the Supreme Soul, who is called by many names, sometimes God, in our tradition Krishna or Ram. When we tap into that inner truth of who we really are, and we experience that love, that compassion, then whatever we may do in our life is an expression of that love and our compassion. And when we understand who we really are, we can actually understand the equality of all beings, because we see that spiritual essence wherever there's life. Whether a person is black or white or red or yellow or brown or male or female, or whether one is from the east or the west, whether one is a Hindu or a Muslim or a Jew or a Jain or a Christian or a Sikh or a Zoroastrian or an agnostic or an atheist, whether one is a human or an elephant or a cow or a dog or a cat or a redwood tree, we see that life is sacred. And when we respect that life force within ourselves, we naturally will respect that life force wherever it is being seen. And then there is this higher fulfillment. There is this higher purpose, which creates an integrity that none of the storms of this world or the inevitable changes can shake us. The integrity of compassion, based on wisdom, based on love that is within us. And all the great spiritual paths are ultimately meant to reconnect us to that inner essence, wherein we can really find a foundation, where we could find those roots, and we could learn to reach out together, to respect each other, to honor each other, to love each other, and to reach out toward all living beings and to Mother Nature herself in that spirit of compassion. Google, perhaps more than any other company in the world, has mastered and perfected the science of networking. And if here we could find that inner essence, and I have heard there are many projects that really are being designed here at Google upon on the foundation of these higher principles. And I thank you for that. And I'm so grateful that you have given me this chance to speak these words today. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Radhanath Swami, for such a wonderful talk. We'll have a book signing now, and also before that, we'll have a 9-minute Q&A because the room is booked at 2. So if you want to continue to hang around, there's a micro kitchen here. So we'll have Radhanath Swami go there, and you can get signature of the books. Journey Home, they are available for a subsidized price of like $10. And you can also have any personal questions answered there. So for next 9 minutes, we'll have some Q&A here. We'll pass around the mics. You can just raise your hand.
In your lecture, you said that we can temper our passion with goodness rather than getting sliding it down to more of ignorance. So, Maharaj, can you elaborate more on how can we practically do that in our day-to-day lives?
The association we choose to connect with, when we associate with people who enlighten us, when we associate with activities that enlighten us, the books we read, the entertainment we find, the people we keep company with, it very much affects our values and our choices. And that association is very important. And that's also why a regular spiritual practice keeps us very strongly connected to these higher principles. Ultimately, the principle of God's grace.
Thank you.
You're welcome. In our tradition, we chant God's names to keep that connection.
Any other questions?
Thank you so much for your talk. It was beautiful. And I so resonate with it all, especially with nature and just respecting all life. What does a typical day look like for you? Your schedule.
Typical. I have to search my memories for a typical day. Well, when I'm not here in the Bay Area, I usually rise around 4 in the morning because it's really a precious time of the day. In so many traditions, especially in our own tradition, it's called Brahma Muhurta. It's a very powerful time of the day to make spiritual connections and for focus and concentration, because kind of everybody's sleeping and the passions of the world around us haven't really started filling the environment. And because we're just woken up, our mind and our consciousness is kind of like a blank slate. And if we fill it with something wonderful, with divine grace, then throughout the day we can actually be energized, empowered to share that grace. So we begin and we chant the names of God, usually for a couple hours, and prayer beads. It's a type of meditation. The mantra that in my tradition is Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama. We believe that all these mantras or all these divine sounds from all these great spiritual traditions connect us to that divine essence and that grace within us. And when I'm near an ashram, we usually have kirtan or chanting together. We're like the Redwood roots, we're all united for one purpose, to try to purify and cleanse the world through Krishna or God's grace. Then we study scriptures together. And then we take sacred food. We're vegetarians. And then we go out and do our seva. My seva is, I live in India actually, in Mumbai, and we have many projects. We have an ashram with about 150 monks in it, and we have a temple, and many thousands of people come every day, and we have a congregation of over 10,000 people. And we have a 200-bed hospital, and we have an orphanage, and we have a hospice, and we have this one project for feeding children in the ghetto schools in the Bombay area, because the number one reason for illiteracy is hunger. And instead of children going and working child labor or begging, if they get food, they'll stay in school. So we are feeding about 410,000 children a day now from our kitchens. And we have an eco-village where we have beautiful cows and other animals that we protect throughout their lives. We build all our buildings out of the natural earth that's around us in eco-friendly ways. And we have natural organic sewage refinery. So every time you flush the toilet, you're actually investing a wonderful contribution into the community. We have this. It takes longer than 9 minutes to talk about this, but it's quite incredible. Like gravity and solar power, you flush the toilet and it goes into a place, and then it comes down through these different herbs and roots and stones, and to filter it, it comes out crystal clear water. We have thousands of fruit trees, and we grow our own organic food. But interesting, we had a yoga group from New York just a couple months ago. I was there, and they were looking at the papayas. They were about this big. And they were eating the papayas every day, and they really liked it. And then they came up to where this sewage refinery was, and the papayas were about this big. So one lady yogi, she gave a new name to our papayas. She called them poopayas. So I kind of oversee these projects, and I have a lot of meetings, and I give a lot of counseling. We have thousands and thousands of married couples, and sometimes they need counseling. So that's a typical day for me. And then I usually give lectures in the evening, public lectures, sometimes in the morning too. And then I take rest.
Funded. How's all this funded? I was going to ask, how are you funded?
In Mumbai,
Thank you so much.
Most of the congregational and ashram and temple activities are funded by the congregation itself. Because within our congregation we have a lot of teachers, industrialists, business people, a lot of software engineers. Believe it or not. And so everyone, because they're inspired, we don't actually have too much fundraising in that sense. People just out of their own appreciation, they want to support and give because they're inspired. And according to what we get, we build. And as far as some of the more public programs like the feeding of the children, and the hospital does a lot of programs, because cataracts are the #1 cause of blindness in India. So we do thousands and thousands of free cataract surgeries in the villages, and a lot of education in the ghettos and village schools for health. So those things are funded by just people from all over the world who appreciate the cause. And whatever we have, we just do that much more. But it's based on a spiritual principle that when we actually come in contact with our eternal souls, and bhakti means to awaken the dormant love for God that's within us. When you water the root of the tree, the water naturally extends to every part of the tree. So through our spiritual practice and through our seva or our services, our aim is to actually, come in contact with the infinite beauty and sweetness of God's love, and be an instrument of that love in whatever we do. And I personally have found when we live by that principle and reduce our ego and humble ourselves to that principle, then everything in life becomes magical, even the challenges. And as the world moves, the hands of time moves with it. I am deeply grateful to all of you to spend this time with you. Thank you very much.